It's really hard to actually figure out when. I always tell people it's probably about 10 years ago, 2018, 2008, yeah, 2007, 2008, when I was working in pharmaceutical consulting, and I left pharmaceutical consulting because it's evil. Anybody in here work for pharma? While it is very lucrative, it's really evil, and you start to feel really guilty. And I bought some property, I sold it, and then I was like, well, let's do some property stuff. So technically it was prop tech because of the way that I was actually doing it. And then I met some people that were in the Twitter sphere because I accidentally fell into Twitter at the South by Southwest launch in 2007 and 2006. And 2007 joined Twitter, and it was just all these people, and I just sort of fell into it from meeting people. And you know, one or two people said, hey, you know, I'm running this business, but I don't have enough money. And I was like, well, here, I can give you a couple $100. Here, I can give you a couple $1,000, you know, here. So then that's really how it started. It was just serendipity, running across people within your network, especially in the New York area. That's when the whole social media thing started to kick off in like the late 2009, just before I went to China. So it really, really started to kick off, and just helping people. And most of the people I helped were women because the guys always were getting the money. 10 years later, still.
Still not a huge amount of change. Yes, yeah. We'll come to that. That's my fifth question. So apart from obviously wanting to help people and give them the opportunity to grow their business, what are you actually looking for when a founder comes to you and asks for some startup capital? What are you doing as an angel? What's your process?
Well, because my background is in intelligence, I'm all about the due diligence. And if there's one thing that I particularly enjoy is when people have done the research, not only within their market, but other markets, and the potentials for what they could possibly do beyond what they're planning. Because a lot of people have got tunnel vision about what they're doing. They're not looking at the possibilities of white space, the potential for a partnership with somebody else who's doing something similar. And instead of competing with, you know, the other company, sometimes it's better to actually join forces, because you may be running your company, need a CTO. It's like you may be a founder and you may not be technical, but somebody else is running something slightly similar. There's possibly some symbiosis down the road, and they're a technical person and they need someone who's a salesperson or a marketing person, and that's you. Join together, and instead of being, you know, number 4 and 5 competing to try and get to number 1, you've now become 2 and 3 because you've joined those forces so well together. It's like you're knocking out the competition before you actually get to market. So I always look for people that have that mindset. It's like a growth mindset, the possibility beyond just doing what you're really passionate about, looking for the ability to recognize other people have passion, and when you join them, it's like a bomb. Sorry.
A passion bomb.
Yeah, a passion bomb. But, and then there's that whole humility. Because there are, unfortunately with men, I'm going to say it, it's true, with a lot of the guys that are out there founding companies, they have no humility. They think, you know, hey, I can blag my way and I can get that, you know, 500,000. You know, they walk in and you're going, this is just an idea. You don't even have a prototype. You walk in here, you're going to blag and get yourself 500,000. And they do a lot of the time. And very, very rarely will you see women do that. We work until it's perfect, and then we go, oh, well, hey, what about this? And it's like, you don't have to always do that. But at the same time, you should be able to recognize, hey, I'm really good at this, but also recognize that sometimes you're not so good at things. Don't turn into a guy. No, seriously, there's all this misconception of wanting to be more like a guy, the way that you market, the way that you sell. And it doesn't work, because then you end up not being authentic. You have to be yourself. The only way you are ever going to be successful is if yourself. Because if you try to become a robot and become somebody else, eventually it runs up and catches you and bites you in the ass.
So due diligence, an authentic leader, who's humble. Is there anything else that you would add to that?
Know your finance.
Know your numbers.
Yeah, know your numbers. You got to know your numbers. And I always say, you got to know your numbers so well that if somebody says something to you purposely to throw you off, because I've seen a lot of VCs do this, they do it all the time, especially to women. They will ask some stupid question, what's your EBT? Or something really stupid like that. Or want to ask you a question about your cap table. Just something that will throw people off because you're so focused on making sure you get through every slide in the order that you have it, that you're not really able to explain something out of sync. So I would say, make sure you know your numbers. Know your numbers so well that if somebody throws it at you in the middle of you talking about your team and they say, oh, well, you don't have a CFO, who's the person that's going to be in charge of your finances? Know your numbers well enough that you can say, that's what it is. And I always say, practice your pitch as though somebody's going to interrupt you. Your pitch, your presentation, know those slides out of order. That was an interview for Forbes earlier this year. And that was one of my big points in negotiation, because if you are not able to go from slide 1 to slide 7, then someone's going to throw you off. It's classic. It's just a classic trade of what men do in order to throw women off. They like to ask questions that they know, they'll look through the slide deck as you're going through your presentation. You give it to them ahead of time. They're asking you a question about slide number 6, and you're on slide number 2. And so if you know, hey, I can talk about slide 6 and then come back to number 2 and continue. It's like you have to make sure whatever you're presenting, whatever you're doing, it's comfortable with you. Don't worry about anybody else. You really have to be comfortable with you. And I know it's hard to do if you don't have that type of personality, but you have to make sure it meshes with what you're doing and your personality. So if you're not an outgoing person, and I'm an ambivert, so after this evening, I'll go home and not want to talk to anybody for at least 12 hours, 24 hours actually, but I don't have that luck. but it's a mixture. You have to be able to know when to turn that switch on. You have to sort of program yourself to get to a point where, okay, this is what I need to do. This is how I do it. It really comes down to programming. It's not about confidence. I can tell you, women don't need any, sorry, I'm going to cuss. Is that okay?
No, yeah, cuss.
Women don't need any of that confidence bullshit, because everybody is confident in their own way. You have a confidence. It's just a matter of, and it's not a matter of somebody saying, oh, we need to empower women. No. We have the power, because first and foremost, without us, the other half is not getting on this planet. So, so it's like we have the power. It's within people. It's just a matter of harnessing whatever your strength is and being able to use that strength to get what you need. That's all it is. So I just get so mad when people say, oh.
And so what's some of the practical stuff that people can be doing to harness that inner power and build that confidence in a natural way? What's the stuff they can be doing?
So I have one female founder at this moment who is pregnant, and she's due with her baby. And she does not like to go to networking events or anything, because she's just, the whole time she's pregnant, it hasn't been a rough pregnancy. She just is uncomfortable because she feels like people are looking at me. I'm going, this is not your first kid. People are going to look at you. You go to the grocery store, you have a whole bunch of strangers looking at you. If you're in an environment and there are people that are like-minded walking around, trust me, they're not going to, people will actually come and be like, hey, when you do, hey, it's great to see you out here. It's being able to change your mind and not feel that self-doubt. Because I don't know if anybody saw some of the highlights from Michelle Obama. She has imposter syndrome. I'm going, Michelle Obama? But I can understand why. Everybody does. And it really comes down to, I always say, sit in silence for 5 minutes before you do anything. It's kind of like, okay, I got this. Everybody has that one song, that one person in your life that has said something to you, something you've read. There's always one thing every single person has that is like their motivator, their driver. And that's the thing you have to remember when you really are at that point, that crunch point I always say that's the thing you got to remember, that one thing. And when I was in, I think I was like 11, so I'm British American, so I went to school here for a little bit, primary school, and then all over the place. But I did like half a year of secondary school here. And I had this math teacher, Mrs. Weber. Man, let me tell you, that woman hated me. She hated me. And she was like, you're not good at math. And the only reason I was not, because I was bored stiff. I was bored stiff. I was like, this is so boring, because I already knew how to do it. So I just was really bad when I was in class. She was like, you're never going to amount to anything with math. And so when I went to an American school, my grades in math was bad. It was bad. And then at the end of school, I mean, I had AP, which is advanced placement, physics, all these classes. My grades were so average or bad. And then you take the SATs to go to university. And my SATs were really good, and they thought I cheated. And it was just because I was like, I'm bored. And then when I went to university, I was like, always had that driver in my head, Mrs. Weber, I'm going to show you. So I went into chemical engineering. And that was just that driver to start out there and go, yeah.
So have the positive person, but also have the nemesis as well.
Yeah. Sometimes it is that one little thing that someone does, and you're just like, I'm going to show you, Don't let that hold you back. There are plenty of people that always try to hold you back. Let that be the driver. Let it be like the fire that fuels you. You don't have to let it completely consume you, but put that negative to a positive.
So Suki, tell us quickly about, out of the 20 investments that you've made, the best, or as you know so far, the best and maybe the worst, or give us the highlight and the low light. You don't need to name and shame, but you can just give us. Just give us a couple of
I think
examples.
the one thing I will tell you, the biggest regret I have probably is Revolut.
So you just missed on it.
Yeah.
And you passed on it.
I didn't know enough. I didn't know enough, and one of my friends did. He's always, but he was a trader, and he's always like, oh, well, if you're on the trading floor, I was like, shut up. It's like, dude, you come to me for your girlfriend advice, who's been advising you for the last 3 years for every girlfriend you've had, me. I should get a cut just because of that, But yeah, that's my biggest regret, I think.
Which has been the best one then?
The best one?
Yeah.
There were a couple that haven't quite come to fruition yet that I'm really excited about. The best one recently, I'd say, was Halal Eat. They were just like Deliveroo and Hungry House, and they did delivery for halal food. And they were in the Mass Challenge Accelerator, and I mentored them and advised them. And then I was like, I'll invest. And then they recently got purchased. So they crowdfunded. They were going for crowdfunding. They were only going for like 150 or something, and they overfunded. And one of the people that crowdfunded came to them and said, I'll put the whole amount in. And they were like, okay. So this investor said, I'll do the whole 150. And they had to go back to Cedars and say, we're not taking your money, Cedars. Cedars wasn't too happy, but that's okay. And then this investor said, came and he looked at the plans. He looked at all of the forecasts, everything. And he met with me because at the time they only had 2 investors. It was myself and somebody else and the founders. And he said, how about I just buy you, because he had this huge plan. And he said this would work with all these other things. And he bought them, and I still have my shares. So. Yeah, still on the advisory board. Actually, he was just here this past week. So yeah, and now they've sort of changed, and they're doing this thing called Pronto Eat, which is now healthy living and healthy food. And so yeah, it's I'd say I'm probably really proud of those guys because they pitched me in the parking lot of they pitched me in the parking lot of Tobacco Docks when Mass Challenge was starting. They had, mentor matching, and they pitched me and made me stop in the rain, made me late for a meeting, but they stopped me and I listened because they pitched that well. And
nice.
Yeah.
Great example. I like the crowdfunding to full investor buyout.
And then there's my lipstick.
And then your lipstick,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Which is a female founder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one of my female founders is pregnant.
Yeah. That's all right. Women get pregnant. That's okay.
I know, but I'm just like, what's going on? You might want to stay away from me for a little bit. Apparently I'm like touching people or something. But yeah, she's done lipstick, which is vegan, vegetarian, and halal also. And for some reason, I lived in the Middle East as a child. My dad still lives in Saudi. So because I understand the culture and I do a lot of stuff in the Middle East, a lot of people that are Islamic, or a lot of people, apparently Jewish people also, people that are in the region do come to me because they know that I understand the cultures, having lived globally. But lipstick, I love it. It's the only thing I wear. I don't wear any other makeup except for lipstick. So she bootstrapped. Niz Cosmetics. So everybody, Niz, N-I-Z-Z, N-I-Z-Z Cosmetics. And she's got her own e-commerce platform. She's in Boots Online and Amazon Europe. Nice. And yeah, and she's about to drop her kid too. So, but she's doing, and she bootstrapped. She bootstrapped. She didn't want to take any money from anybody, and she got a little bit of money from friends and family, and she just said, I don't want to do that yet. And so she'll probably need to when she gets to expansion, which is right about now. But I gotta say, I'm very proud of her, because that's a journey. That's a journey to go from being a nurse to doing all the research and having an all-natural fair trade brand. And I gotta say, my lipstick, I love it. It doesn't taste bad. It doesn't come off. It's long-lasting. I gotta say,
you're a fan.
Yeah,
and you sold it.
Yeah, I'm like, buy the lipstick, buy the lipstick. Christmas.
Final question from me, Suki. So
No.
We've seen female angel numbers come up from 5% in 2009 to the latest figures from UKBAA are 14% female angel investors. So that's still too low. Too low. So what can we be doing about that? What do we need to see change? What's going to drive those numbers to jump?
I would say there's a few things. One, I'm always telling people, it's not the lack of confidence. There are a lot of women out there that have the ability to invest. They just are not aware that they can invest. It's not that there aren't women out there that don't have the funds. There are women out there that have the funds, they're just not aware of where to go to invest. We spend a large amount of money on shoes, although not my shoes today. These are my comfy shoes. We spend a lot of money on other things that we know we can spend money on investing in other women or just in companies. And I think one of the things we had talked about earlier was the fact that it's just a matter of not knowing where to go. That is probably the biggest issue with not having a growth of female investors or female founders that get invested. It's just, there are women, and it's just a matter of getting the word out there where these networks are, because they exist, and all we ever hear about is that one woman all the time. It's like, oh yeah, great female investor, one person. It's like, it's not just one person. There's a whole bunch of women out there. We have, the networks like Women in Banking and Finance. We have an event called Champagne and Shoes. And it's women in banking and finance. And, we go to places like Lucy Cho's and we have shoes, and you're dropping a couple £100 on a pair of shoes. And when I went there and the first event, I was like, Lucy, these women could be investing. Instead of doing this, that's great, but they could be investing. We do things like Dress for Success, where you can give your used clothing and shoes to a charity that gives them to women that need clothing and shoes to go to job interviews. But at the same time, It's like, while you spend all that money on clothes and you give that away, you could be spending some of that money investing. And that's where I think the biggest hole is, people don't have the awareness. So it's really about becoming more aware of the networks that are out there, becoming more aware of how to invest, the education of how to invest. People should not be afraid to go to an event and be the only woman. I'm like, if you're the only woman at an event, you got the room. You basically will have the room eating out of your hand because you're the only woman in there. So people are going to be hyper aware of you. And that is how you go, okay, well, you know, I'm going to pick and choose who I'm going to talk to because they're going to want to be seen talking to me, one, because I'm the only woman, and they want to be seen like they're doing their equality thing. It's like, use it, use that. You know, don't always think it's such a negative. It's like, use it as a positive. You know, yeah, we know where sometimes we're checking a box, but make sure when you check the box, you're not checking the box, you know, in a negative way. You're not using it to be, you know, sexually exploitive. You go out there and it's like, yeah, you have your gender, but use that. Use it like, I'm checking a box, so guess what? I'm going to make sure you check the box of giving me and writing that check. You know, it's like you really have to use everything to your advantage. Networks. Diversify your networks. I hate the word diversify sometimes, but diversify your networks. Make sure that you, what was that thing I said earlier? I can't remember.
Great point.
Yeah, I know, I made a really great point earlier.
Yeah, no, because I was saying to you, I said, do you think there's because sometimes I hear this, that, you know, women are more risk averse.
Oh, yeah, that.
And then you were like, no, this is a great point.
Yeah. No, it's not risk averse. It's more like we are able to mitigate risk a little bit more better than men. So, and I always come back to that. There's one thing I always say, like, women are really great at being financial managers. One, from the age of puberty, and I make this point all the time, from the age of puberty, we are now aware that we have to have an extra 5 to 10 pounds in our wallet every month. And that is so that we can buy tampons or whatever product that we use. Guys, when they go to university or college, and we're at university or college, we have to make sure, hey, I'm a student, I need that, I got always have that extra bit in there. So we are financially managing from the age that we leave home, financially managing to have that extra money in there. Guys, they don't have to. They don't even get financial management skills to buy freaking condoms. You know, it's always relying on the woman to do that or to be on birth control. So, you know, the responsibility once again for the financial aspect falls to the female. And then guess what? They just go out and buy beer. So every month from the age of when puberty hits and we've left home, we are doing that. We are doing that. So anybody who says, oh, we don't know if you know how to financially manage, it's like, yeah, can you do that? Have you ever thought about how you manage that every month? No, shut up. And then it's I raise this point all the time, and they always kind of go, whoa, yeah, I never thought about that. And then there's also the aspect that women, because we always have that thought in our head, like, do we have that extra money for the feminine hygiene products that we need to use? Just that thought alone, do we have that extra money? We are able to always think about how we are going to manage our money. It's always about mitigating the risk, reducing the risk of losing that money. Guys, they just go in and it's like fling. You know, it's like, hey, I'm just going to buy this. They're not worried about it at the end of the day. Women, we plan it out. Even the most risk-taking woman in the world still planned it out. That's just the way it is. We have a tendency to mitigate the risk. It's not about being risk averse. It's about risk mitigation. So always think about it. I'm telling you, don't let anybody talk you down, man, woman, or child, whatever. Do not let them talk you down and use those words against you, because it's risk averse. I would say Iceland, when that nice little crash happened, the only bank that didn't fail was a bank that was run and managed by women. The only bank in a whole country. And I believe she's prime minister. Is she prime minister now? Or was she? Yeah. It's the Prime Minister of Iceland.
And also,
Who
there's
knew?
quite a lot of research. There we go. And there's also a lot of research around women financial managers having better performance, and also female founders having better returns as well. So there's quite a lot of research that is backing some of that up.